You say you want love, but be honest. Is it really love you're chasing? Or is it the thrill of being chosen? Because there's a hard truth most people don't talk about. You're not addicted to connection, you're addicted to the validation of being picked. That moment when someone says, "You're the one," feels like love, but it's not. It's a performance. A game you didn't even realize you were playing. The secret is, you've been trying to prove you're enough ever since you were a kid. And what if I told you that's exactly why you keep ending up in relationships that drain you? Here's the uncomfortable part. Most people reject real love because it doesn't feel familiar. It doesn't feel like a chase. It doesn't make you earn it. And if love doesn't make you fight for it, you don't trust it. This message isn't for everyone. It's for you, the one who's tired of performing. The one who's starting to realize that something deeper is going on. You've got questions you've never said out loud. And maybe, just maybe, the answers are not in getting picked. They're in picking yourself. This video might shake you, but it might also set you free. Sometimes you think you're chasing love when really you're chasing validation. There's a secret confusion going on inside you. One that makes you believe someone choosing you will finally make you feel whole. But love and validation, they're not the same thing. Love holds space for who you are. Validation just tries to fix the ache of not feeling enough. You might catch yourself falling hardest for the ones who seem emotionally unavailable. Why? Because their approval feels like a prize. When someone distant finally pays attention, you feel like you've won something. But here's the truth. If you need to be picked to feel worthy, you're handing your self-worth to someone else's inconsistency. This pattern can feel so familiar that you start to think it's normal. You crave someone looking at you and saying, "Yes, you're enough now." But the universe doesn't work like that. It whispers, "You were enough before they noticed." Still, you might keep running toward that old feeling, hoping this time it'll mean something deeper. It shows up in subtle ways, too. You overthink texts. You replay conversations. You bend your boundaries just to keep them close. But none of that is love. It's a performance, a silent audition for someone else's approval. And the longer you keep playing that role, the more distant you get from the real you. But there's a deeper reason this cycle keeps playing out. It goes way back, farther than most people realize. And if you've ever felt like you had to earn love as a kid, well, that belief might still be calling the shots even now. You didn't wake up one day craving validation. That need was wired into you early on, long before you had words to describe it. Maybe you only got attention when you achieved something, or when you behaved in a way that made others comfortable. The truth is, many people grew up learning that love had to be earned. That's not love. That's survival training. If you had to be the good kid, the smart one, or the strong one, you were probably praised more for what you did than for who you were. Over time, your nervous system began to associate performance with love. So now, even as an adult, you feel unsafe when you're not proving something. It's not because you're broken. It's because you were trained that way. Let me give you an example. Imagine a child who only gets hugs when they bring home good grades. That child grows up believing their value lives in achievement. Now fast forward 20 years, and that same person feels anxious during rest, guilty when relaxing, and desperate for praise. That child might be you. And the secret is, you don't need to prove anything anymore. The universe has been patiently waiting for you to notice that you were lovable all along. Not because of what you did, but because of who you are. Still, it's hard to let go of a belief that's protected you for so long. The conditioning feels like armor, but armor that's worn too long becomes a cage, doesn't it? And that's why you might find yourself constantly chasing, pleasing, and perfecting. Not because you want love, but because you're afraid of what happens if you stop. But there's another trap just around the corner, one that looks a lot like connection but is actually fueled by something else entirely. Let's be honest, you got really good at performing. Not on a stage, but in life. You learned how to smile when you were hurting, nod when you disagreed, and over-deliver just to feel safe. That habit didn't come from nowhere. It came from a deep-rooted belief that you have to do something to be worthy of love. But here's the truth. That belief is stealing your peace. You might think you're just being ambitious, hardworking, loyal, but look closer. Are you really chasing goals? Or are you chasing approval? There's a difference between passion and proving. When you're addicted to the pursuit, you can't rest. Even when you reach a milestone, it doesn't satisfy you. Why? Because it was never about the goal. It was about being seen. You start to notice this when rest feels unsafe. When you feel guilty for saying no. When you say yes out of fear they'll leave. This kind of pursuit doesn't build love. It burns you out. And yet, you keep going, thinking maybe this time they'll finally appreciate you. But what if the secret is not in being more, but in being real? Try this. Pause before you say yes next time. Ask yourself, am I doing this out of love or out of fear? That tiny question can shake the foundation of years of conditioning. You might even find that the people who truly care about you don't need you to perform. The universe is nudging you there, back to your center. But here's the catch. When you finally meet someone who sees the real you without all the masks, it might feel wrong, uncomfortable, maybe even boring. And that's where the next layer of truth begins to unfold. Real love can feel unsettling, strange even. You're so used to chasing that when love finally stops running, you don't know what to do with it. No anxiety, no uncertainty, no begging for attention. Your nervous system might interpret peace as a red flag because chaos has been your normal. That's the twisted truth. You reject calm because it doesn't feel familiar. You've probably said things like, they're too nice, or it just doesn't feel right. What you really meant was, this doesn't trigger my need to prove myself. And because you're not performing, you start doubting if it's real. The secret is, you weren't falling in love before, you were falling into patterns. And those patterns were built on pain. Stable love isn't boring. It's just quiet. It doesn't keep you guessing, and it doesn't spike your cortisol. It shows up. It stays. It asks nothing from you except that you be honest. But that simplicity can feel so foreign that you sabotage it. You ghost. You pull away. Or worse, you chase people who make you feel anxious again just to feel something. Think about it. If you've been conditioned to equate intensity with intimacy, then real love might seem like a void. But the universe doesn't thrive in chaos. It thrives in alignment. Real connection grows in the presence of trust, not adrenaline. And that's where you start to see the difference between being loved and being activated. But there's another reason you might run from what feels safe. And it's not just unfamiliarity, it's fear. Not fear of rejection, but fear of being truly seen. And what that exposure might reveal, well, that's a whole different kind of vulnerability. You might think you fear rejection, but what you really fear is being fully seen. Not the curated version of you. Not the one who has it all together. I mean the raw, unfiltered you. The one behind the mask. Because if someone sees that version and walks away, that feels final. That feels like proof that you're unlovable. But here's the truth. It's not proof. It's projection. You've spent years managing how people see you, haven't you? Carefully adjusting who you are depending on the room you're in. Smiling when you want to cry. Agreeing to keep the peace. You've mastered performance to the point where even you forget who you are. But the universe keeps placing people in your path, not to test you, but to reflect you back to yourself. Think about those moments when someone compliments a part of you that you weren't even trying to show. Feels terrifying, right? Vulnerable. Because deep down you believe that if they saw the full picture, the flaws, the scars, the mess, they'd run. So you hide. You filter. You minimize. But hiding is exhausting, and it disconnects you from real love. Here's the secret. Being truly seen isn't about exposure. It's about liberation. When you let go of the fear of being too much or not enough, you give people permission to love the real you, not the edited version. That kind of visibility isn't just emotional. It's spiritual. It's the moment you stop shape-shifting and start existing. And when you start existing like that, healing begins. But not in the way you think. Healing doesn't start with perfection. It starts with acceptance. And what that path looks like is quieter, deeper, and much more honest than you've ever been taught to believe. Healing doesn't begin with fixing what's broken. It begins when you stop pretending you're broken at all. The truth is, most of your pain comes from trying to be someone you were never meant to be, just to be accepted. You've outgrown that role. The universe is now inviting you to grieve the old version of yourself, not because it was wrong, but because it was never the full you. This kind of grief is quiet. It's not loud like heartbreak. It's soft, like realizing you spent years living inside someone else's expectations. And when you let go of those roles, the overachiever, the peacemaker, the fixer, you begin to meet the you that's been buried under all that proving. That version, that's the one who can finally breathe. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means looking in the mirror and saying, even if no one else claps for me today, I choose me. It's choosing rest without guilt. Speaking the truth even when your voice shakes. It's being okay with being ordinary in a world obsessed with performance. Real growth doesn't come from standing out. It comes from finally coming home. One practical way to begin is to create space where you don't have to perform. Journaling without filters. Spending time alone without distractions. Reading books like The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown or Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach. These aren't just tools, they're mirrors. And when you slow down, you'll start seeing who you are beyond the noise. And something beautiful happens when you do. You stop begging to be chosen. You stop bending just to be picked. Because the moment you reconnect with your truth, something shifts. You start seeing worth not as something earned, but as something remembered. And that shift changes everything. There comes a point where you stop waiting. Waiting to be called, to be liked, to be told you matter. And instead, you decide. You choose yourself. Not out of bitterness, not out of rebellion, but out of clarity. Because the truth is, when you spend your life waiting to be chosen, you give others the power to define your worth. And the universe has been waiting for you to remember who you are. Choosing yourself looks different for everyone. Sometimes it's walking away from a table where love feels like a transaction. Sometimes it's starting the thing you've been postponing until someone approves. Other times, it's just whispering, I'm enough. Even when no one's around to hear it. You don't need a spotlight to be real. You just need to stop dimming your light. There's power in no longer needing to be picked. Imagine applying for that job not because you need their validation, but because you believe in what you bring. Imagine dating without needing to impress, because you already love the person you're showing up as. That's the secret. When you choose yourself first, you attract people and opportunities that match that energy. It doesn't mean you'll never feel the pull to seek outside approval again. It just means you'll recognize it faster. You'll pause. You'll breathe. You'll ask, am I honoring my truth right now? And in that pause, you take your power back. Choosing yourself is a daily decision, not a one-time event. And every time you make that choice, you strengthen your connection to the universe within. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be picked. You were meant to pick yourself, to see yourself as worthy before anyone else does. And once you live from that place, well, let's just say, everything you've been chasing begins to chase you. So now you know, it was never about being picked. It was about finally remembering that you were never unworthy to begin with. The real question is, what are you going to do with this truth? Will you keep shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's version of love? Or will you let go and finally choose you? Look around. The universe is already giving you signs. The discomfort you've been feeling? That's not failure, it's a wake-up call. A chance to stop chasing love and start becoming it. So tell me, what would your life look like if you stopped performing and started being real? What would happen if you finally dropped the mask? If this message stirred something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications because we're just getting started. This is a space where you'll keep learning, healing, and rising. And before you go, watch this next video right here. It holds the next key to everything you've just unlocked.